Michigan fans, you are Big Ten champions.
God damn, say that again. Damn, that sounds good.
You are Big Ten champions. How does that feel? Welcome to the Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football channel. I am one of the post-game hosts, Desmond. Got my partner here, Dre. While you are here, please like and subscribe the video, share it out on social media. And as you guys are starting to join us and hop in the chat, make sure you give us a thumbs up while you are here. Dre, we've got a huge win. Michigan just beat Iowa 42-3. I'll kick it off to you, man. How you feeling?
Feeling playoff bound, baby. That's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like a champion, baby. That's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like we putting something in a trophy case that's gonna be there forever. That's how I'm feeling. I feel completion. Facts. That's how I feel. That's why I feel, baby. You know, and it's incredible. And that's why it's moments like now, as people can't tell, I have my celebratory cigar that will be probably lighting up once this is done. It's moments like now, and I want people to really take in how they feel. This is why championships matter, and not 10-2, 9-3 seasons that it means something to complete, right? To be good and complete the path, complete the mission. That's why when people like us talk about, in the midst of a quote unquote good season, and it seems like we're being critical, and what did I always say? We will judge this team week to week on a week by week basis to get right here, right where they are right now. And were we 100% correct by everything? No. But our intent in the critique was so they can be here, right here, and not just a normal 9-3, 10-2 season, and they're at home watching this game like Ohio State and MSU and Penn State are right now, right? So they can be right here. And it's incredible, man. It's been 7 years in the making under Jim Harbaugh to get here. A lot of pain, like some good moments, but a lot of pain along the way. And it's so sweet. It's so sweet. And I couldn't be more proud of this team and this program. You gotta give so much credit. We've been on them. I know I've been a huge critic of his, and I think rightfully so. You have, as well as others. But Jim, he shaked up his coaching staff. This was a critical year for him. I mean, he had a reduction in pay, and he really answered the bell, and he deserves all remarks for that. Total credit,
Yeah, it was, you look at this as it's a culmination up until this point, and it continued to build like week after week. We've been on here, and it's interesting because it's almost just like we've been so repetitive in what we were saying. You know what I mean? It's just of just the things that you can really count on, week in and week out for Michigan is the leaders having the guys ready to go, the coaching staff doing a really good job of having the guys in the right mindset. Like It just, you know what I mean? It's continued again and again. And today was no different. You know what I mean? And every week the defense came to play. Like, so it has been a consistent effort, a consistent focus, with this team. And when you look at it, that's how you get here. Like, that is how you get here, is that consistency, and kudos to the guys, man. Kudos to this coaching staff. I think Jim Harbaugh, although you could see a lot of his blueprint and his just trademark and his stamp on this offense, I think he did do a really good job of kind of letting go a little bit. I think he did a phenomenal job there. Bringing in a new defensive coordinator. I was not a big fan of Don Brown at all. I did not like him as a defensive coordinator, but nonetheless, like, it's still, you're taking a chance because, Jim Harbaugh had familiarity with Don Brown. Like, he had been with him for, multiple years and multiple seasons, and you know what to expect. So, for him to go through those things and those changes, it's incredible, and you look at the mix of guys that, contributed, the mix of guys that, did really well for this team. You had the Hassan Haskins, who is, a senior, but then you also had Donovan Edwards, who had some really big moments these last couple
Blake
weeks.
Corum.
Blake Corum. Yeah. So like it just like that when you start to talk about a championship team, that's what it entails. It entails everybody doing their part.
Absolutely.
Like everybody's got to do their part.
And getting better.
It's just
better throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Lil Coda says, can we get Corey in here to explain himself? We skull dragged this team. I just want that same energy, guys, but great win. Go Blue. Thank you, Lil Coda, for the super chat. We definitely appreciate it. I mean, Corey, had mentioned, well, he said that if Michigan blew out Iowa, he wouldn't be all that shocked, but he predicted Iowa to win the game.
Look, Dez, and as we said, and I said it straight to Corey, I even called the right halftime score at 14-3, and he said, "Oh, that's competitive." I was trying to be fair, and I'm like, because I thought the game would go even though Michigan, even Corey admitted this, like personnel to personnel, we knew Michigan was the better team, right? But you knew Iowa was physical. You knew they weren't going to just come to this game and lay down, right? Like they feel they are right. They deserve to be here too. I mean, they're not. It's not like they're one of those programs in the West that, like a Northwestern or like a Purdue or something like that, or Indy. Like they were having some magical season and they got here. No, they have always been a staple in the Big Ten West, and they've been to this game before. They are a respectable program, right? They send NFL guys to the league, talented guys to the league every year. So you knew they were going to, show up and give their best, put their best foot forward. So I thought the game would be kind of somewhat competitive in the first half, and he thought I was crazy. He said, "What?" And when Dez, one thing we essentially said to him was, a lot of his strategy was hope. It wasn't a lot of, legitimate, this is what we do well. This is a legitimate advantage that we have over Michigan, right? And I thought, and you saw that play out today. Iowa needed those quote unquote what the F moments or in mistakes by Michigan to have a shot. They got one. I believe that was the Campbell interception that went off of Eric. It was a ball that was thrown in. We'll talk about Cade. He was okay today. But Cade threw a ball behind Eric All. Probably should have still caught it, but threw it behind him. Went off All's hands right into Campbell, the linebacker for Iowa, right? And then they got that one turnover, and they didn't capitalize on that. So it's like, other than that, you just couldn't get enough mistakes by Michigan, which is what Iowa needed. And eventually you saw, just talent took over in the second half.
Yeah, it was. There were some mistakes. Nothing major though. I think.
No.
And to me, it shows that just the talent gap. You know what I mean? Because the fact that you did have the mistakes, and Iowa still only put up 3 points. Michigan had a bit of a lull, especially in that first half, and to where you got the two scores pretty quick, and then there's just a bit of a lull. Like you kind of got off rhythm a little bit. And they got to, they got to the half 14-3, and, but even then there was no thought that this game was in any jeopardy, for me. I mean, I tweeted it and I also text you too. When Michigan scored their first touchdown, I text you, I was like, that's game. Like it's over.
You're pretty premature with that. Dude, you said that was game after the first touchdown.
Yeah, I did. I was dead serious. Yes. I was like, no. I'm like, that's it.
It was like early first quarter.
Like, I've seen enough. I have seen enough with this Iowa offense, and just today, and I don't even think I watched them against Penn State, to be quite frank. So I'm just like, this isn't it. This isn't it. I could tell. Now, I did think they had a good strategy because early on they were taking some shots downfield, and I thought that was the only way you'd be able to compete in this game, which they stopped doing that, and you see the final result. But it just was, when that first touchdown happened, I'm like, oh yeah, this game's over, man. That's it. We can wrap this up and go home. Just because they just didn't have enough, offensively.
And then once Michigan got the ball back again, and that incredible, running back, it was a double pass to Donovan Edwards, who threw it all. I mean, dude, I'm trying not to be like a prisoner at the moment. That may be the best pass I've ever seen by a running back ever. Like
Yeah.
that was like I don't think seriously in terms of a deep ball. I don't know if Cade or JJ has had a deep ball at like I guess my point is they probably have, but that was just as good as any throw our quarterbacks have made this season. That was fantastic. I mean, because I'm sure they rep that in practice, but what are the chances in the game that even when those plays work in a game, typically the ball's underthrown by the running back a little bit because you're just not used. You're not used to the right touch. I mean, he threw that ball like in stride, perfect.
Even if Roman Wilson was covered, that still was going to be. I mean, that was a ball in stride. Like, I mean, that was a beautiful throw. Beautiful throw.
And I said, what did I take? I said, dude, that was a. I said, Edwards has a pretty good arm for a running back. He was like, no, he has a cannon, period.
Right. Yeah. You're like, yeah, he's got a pretty good cannon for a running back. And I'm like, no. He's just got a good cannon. Like, you can just leave it at that. Like, that was
That
was really impressive. Really impressive. Weston Andy, thanks so much for the super chat. It's exactly where is he? I think they're talking about Corey. No excuses for him, man. He only lived on hope. And yeah,
I think Corey.
Go ahead.
I think Corey could have saved himself a little bit if he just copped to that. Like if he was just like, look, I'm just gonna be honest, like I'm picking Iowa to win. It's my team. But we need a lot to go our way, and I'm just hoping for that to happen. Right. But like I think he could have saved himself if he just kind of copped to it, but he just talked around it he acted like he wasn't basing it on hope, but he was. And I think that's what set him up for today.
Well, and I think too, but I mean, when you don't point to anything, like he didn't say that, offensively we do this, but I mean, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I think he mentioned the punter as being one of their best weapons. Like, and when that happens, I mean, I just like punters don't score touchdowns. They don't score touchdowns. They don't.
Yeah.
So when that's one of your main weapons, like you're probably in trouble, in a championship game, I would say, so I just there was nothing, great that Corey could point to on, what a path for an Iowa win. It was just really more so like Michigan's got to come into this game super uncharacteristic. And you and I talked about it yesterday on the phone of, we talked about it. Number one, Cade is really risk averse, doesn't turn the ball over much. Hassan Haskins, up until this game, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but he hasn't fumbled the ball, all season. And then you also talked about like getting a punt blocked. I'm like, Michigan hasn't had a punt blocked all season. So you're not needing one of those things to happen. You need all of them to happen in the same game. Like that's just like the odds say that that's just not going to happen, and if it does, you're not going to get all of them. Like you're going to get a punt block, Hassan's going to fumble, and Cade's going to throw a pick all in the same game. Like it just, I didn't see that happening, which is why I picked my score prediction what it was. I mean, I picked a 25-point win. They ended up winning by more than that. But I just thought
I asked Corey that. I'm like, like defensively, I mean, I can see you guys being solid, but offensively, how are you guys going to be able to score enough to keep up with Michigan? And, I think that's one thing you saw in the second half. And they even made a quarterback change that, Corey thought would happen, putting in Padilla. And, like it's just it was obvious they were just trying to find any kind of spark, offensively. And it just and that's when the game just took, they went from was it Patras? How you say his first last name for Iowa? Petras, who was a much better thrower of the football. But like you say, he's a statue back there. And he at least helped them move the ball a little bit at times, a couple of decent drives. They couldn't get in the end zone. So when they put in Padilla, even though he was more athletic, they got even less efficient on offense. And then they start having 3 and outs, and it just spiraled from there. And then eventually, it's hard. It's hard as a defense, when your offense is literally giving you nothing to like not break after a while. And yeah, man, it was it was a thorough complete game by Michigan. And that's with Cade, to me, not playing very well. I thought Cade was, very, very spotty today with his throws. He was still overall, I think, steady. but he was not. He compared to how he's played the last couple of weeks, I thought his accuracy was a little bit off today, which can happen,
Yeah.
But got to be better in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, and we'll get to, kind of the playoff talk and what we think is gonna, hammer out, because I believe tomorrow at noon is when the final final rankings are released. But yeah, I agree. He didn't miss a ton of throws because he finished 16 to 24. So, he didn't miss a ton of throws, but I did feel like some throws were there that, he just was off a little bit, like the Eric All, throw that ended up getting intercepted. I still think that's a drop by Eric All. Like, he's got
Yeah, it
to
was
catch
catchable
that.
for sure. Catchable for sure.
You're a high level Division I tight end. Like, you've got to make that catch.
I think he'll be on the next level. I think he has the size for it and everything like that. He's a nice tight end.
Yep, you gotta make that catch. But yeah, I would agree. Cade seemed a little bit off. I think Michigan got into some obvious passing downs, and Iowa started bringing some pressure and started getting in his face a little bit, and I think that kind of threw him off. I obviously didn't help him any, but overall, look, 42 points, and no one's gonna argue and be upset with that.
No, that's not what we're doing. We're just we're just thinking about overall. I thought Cade was, compared to how he's been. He's been playing so well because with Cade, he doesn't make bad decisions normally. He doesn't really turn the ball over, and he's actually, even though he doesn't have the strongest arm, he's pretty accurate when he's on. And so that was the thing I just noticed today. Like, he wasn't quite as accurate, with his touches and stuff like that. But one thing I will say is that how they bring in JJ, and ironically, one of the plays that brought in JJ in that package they like to do turned into a huge touchdown. My boy Corum, for one, great blocking. Corum making the guy miss, incredible cut to get to the outside. No JJ didn't block anyone, but just to have the effort, to the hustle, to get down there and be kind of a shield, if you will. Just to give Corum those extra couple steps that it took for him to get in the end zone. So that was incredible to see, and it was just I just can't just say enough good things. But what my point was about Cade is that I would like to see him use his legs more. That was a play that they had in which they saw that Iowa was in man coverage, and they motioned out Edwards, who they know is a threat in the passing game. And he immediately saw that the field was open in the middle and took off and ran. And I thought he looked pretty athletic, decently athletic for running. I'm like, dude, you should run more. you're no statue back there. Like, you can run.
You can move.
You can move. Like, if you have a couple steps, you can get 6-7 yards if you wanted to. So I would like to see that. If, some progression, maybe it won't happen this year, but some progression for Cade is that use his legs more, especially like if he's under pressure. Because I see that he potentially could add that as a wrinkle into his game.
Yeah. And and you don't need it. You don't need it, 10, 15 times a game. Like, 3 or 4 times, on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, you're able to scramble, get down, slide, get the first down like that. That's a backbreaker for a defense, especially one that, is thinking that I am defending a statue. So so I've got all my guys in coverage. We're not concerned with trying to spy your quarterback or anything like that. And then, he takes off, gets a first down. Like, that's a backbreaker, for the defense.
So we see people putting, yes, it was a design play run.
Yeah, that draw. Yeah,
it was, but it's just the point that Cade is athletic enough. Like, because it's like this notion that JJ is the athletic one and Cade's more of the pocket passer, and I think that's true for the most part. JJ's definitely more dynamic and athletic, but I'm just saying Cade's not a statue, in that even in plays that are not designed draw plays or sneaks or what have you, or quarterback blasts up the middles, that Cade can't take off and run if he's under pressure. And, instead of taking a sack or forcing a ball, that, he'll take the 3 or 4 yards if they're there. Right. So I'm imploring him to use his legs more, because it looks like he can.
For sure.
Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And someone had mentioned having some more schemes in the playoff game, and I do agree with that assessment. Captain Banana Peel says, how long do we have to practice? 4 weeks or 1 week? The CFP games are December 31st, if I'm not mistaken. So Michigan's got, what is that? Basically 4 weeks to get ready to rock and roll. So Mr. Glasper says, like the video, people, especially now that Dre's finally over the pass. That's funny. He's looking forward
Mr.
now.
Glasper, look, you're looking for, hey, when you do new things, I get to look forward. When history, when you don't repeat history, then then yeah. And that's what it's always been about, like I've always implored when it comes to judging my teams that or any team, it's like if a team doesn't like, any negative narratives that are about, talked about them or spoken about them or surrounds them, then it's up to them to break them and to change them. And that's what the season was, changing narratives, proving that you can win big games, proving that you can stay focused after winning a big game, right? Not wilting under pressure. And they've done it time after time after again. That's what makes this season so special. So, Mr. Glasper, I am ecstatic that they have, proven me wrong. They have given me memories that I think we're all going to remember for a lifetime. And and that's just the beauty of this, man. It's incredible, and we're going to enjoy it. We're going to enjoy it, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't think we ever had it established, and there was Zane Gates asked about the crowd. Like he called Corey a name, which I'll refrain from keeping those on the screen. But could you tell if that, to me, it seemed like it was a Michigan, and I won't say heavy, but it seemed like it was worst case 50-50, maybe 55-45 for Michigan. What
Iowa showed up. It was a lot of Michigan fans there, but Iowa showed up. I was monitoring people who were there on social media, and apparently it was a huge Iowa fan turnout. So Corey wasn't wrong that it was a huge Iowa fan turnout. But definitely it wasn't. He said fans would be the majority.
It would be
essentially at the game.
I mean, and maybe like you said, maybe I'm wrong, but he was like this could be like borderlining on a home game. Like he's like, no, it's gonna be Iowa.
Right. That's like, what he was. Yeah, it's like no. But so that's what made it wrong. But no, they definitely showed up, but it was pretty close to 50-50.
Yeah, agreed.
Which hey, in a conference championship game, it probably should. You should get, you will hope, that both teams are well represented, right? So that's great to see.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. So let's talk about. So someone had asked, as far as the final college football rankings, where Michigan would end up. So we've got Cincinnati won. They won their championship game. So Cincinnati's in. From all accounts, it seems like Georgia's going to be in. I don't think anyone really predicted that Alabama would win by 17 points. I think, most people were like, if they're going to win, it's going to be a close one. So I don't think that was factored into it, but I still think Georgia's probably in. And then you've got Michigan and Alabama. So for you, if you were the entire committee, where would you have the rankings, and who would you put at, each ranking? Not what you think the committee will do. What would you do?
I would do Michigan 1. I would do Bama 2. I'll do I'll actually do Cincy 3 and Georgia 4. And I know, like, some Michigan fans, of course, we would rather have Cincinnati, right, probably from a matchup standpoint, but I was giving it some thought, and now that's what I would do, but I think it would actually be Bama, Michigan, Georgia, and Cincy, but I would do it Michigan, Bama, Cincy, and Georgia, and the reason why is because, for one, out of the 4 teams, if you think about it, Georgia, even though they've been a consensus #1, they're the only team that hasn't won a conference championship. Cincy has won their conference, right? Michigan has won their conference. Alabama's won their conference, right? So,
hold on, repeat that again.
Yeah.
You said Michigan did what?
Won their conference. That's
yes,
right.
That's true. That's right.
I get used to saying it. Yeah. You got used to saying that. Michigan won. Can't believe I'm saying it, man. Michigan won their conference. Bama won their conference, and Cincinnati won their conference. Georgia didn't. So I mean, I can easily see. I think that's a viable reason. And Georgia, it's not like it's a huge slap on the wrist of Georgia. It's not like they're kicking them out the playoff. They're still in. So at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. So you're slapping the wrist to be, hey, you didn't win your conference, but you still deserve to be here. This is an invitational. So put Georgia at 4. Michigan at 1. I just think, and it when it comes to the debate between why Michigan over Bama, for me, it comes down to Michigan. To me, has played the tougher schedule down the stretch overall, and it's been playing a more consistent good football. I respect, of course, what Bama did today. I mean, that was very impressive. Beating the consensus #1 team today, but Bama literally has been stumbling into this game today. Has not had the strongest schedule down the stretch, no fault of their own. And I just think that Michigan has played the better football lately. That's why I would do it. But certainly, Bama definitely has,
I mean, and you could argue that Michigan's played more consistent football all year, really, even with the Rutgers and Nebraska games, they've still played at a pretty consistent, level, and have only been ramping up like these last, few weeks. So, if that happened, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So you think that essentially Michigan is going to get matched up against Georgia in the first round?
Yes. Okay. And because I think either way, and I don't think this should matter because I think it's based on how teams finished up. Like the committee will put into will factor in, Georgia and Bama having a rematch. Honestly, as a viewer of college football, that doesn't really bother me because they both put on a really good product today. I mean, like it kind of got away from Georgia after a while, but you're still gonna get both fan bases at this game. You're gonna get high viewership. It's Kirby versus Saban. They played in a national title game a couple of years ago. I mean, like it's going to get a big draw. So I mean, I don't really see, I don't know, like I don't really see like the negative about them rematching, but whatever. Because either way, if like they're going to rematch eventually, if you think they're as good as they are, right? Like if you do. Like, say they want in their mind, they want to set up Bama. Like, if they set up Georgia versus Bama versus Cincy. Okay, you probably pick Bama to win that game, and maybe it's a flip between Michigan and Georgia. Who gets there, right? Then you're still you're still setting up a situation that you're most likely going to have a Bama Georgia rematch. Either way, you know what I'm saying?
But the thing is before like yesterday at this 24 hours ago. What we thought we would have is Georgia being #1 and Alabama being out. That's what, so a lot has changed since the last since Georgia and Alabama played and Georgia ends up losing by 14 or 17. So I don't know. I think like you said, yes, I think, Alabama matched up against Cincinnati. Like they're probably going to win that matchup. Especially when you're talking about Nick Saban getting 4 weeks to game plan for a team, like that's right in his wheelhouse. It's rare. The first year of the playoff is if I'm not mistaken, the only time they lost a semifinal game. Like they, you know what I mean? Like when he gets that much time, it usually works out in their favor. But the thing is too, and what I'd like to get into is how do you think Michigan matches up against Georgia? Because I actually think they match up pretty well against Georgia.
Well, ironically, I think Stetson Bennett and Cade are very similar.
That's a little bit of shade there, man. I mean,
you're not a big fan of Stetson Bennett, though. That's just you're not a big fan of Stetson Bennett. You were like
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like you're throwing shade to your quarterback. Like
no, I mean in terms of style. In terms of style, like I think they're very similar in terms of style. Like they're quick read guys, get the ball out. accurate throwers to the football. Now, rather who is better than not, both have really good experience, both played in big games, both won some big games. So, I don't think it's a terrible, comp. They're both good quarterbacks. I don't know. I know you're not huge on Stetson, but he's a good he's good.
I didn't see Stetson drop any. Like Cade, although he had a little bit shaky today, he threw some dimes today. I didn't see Stetson Bennett throwing any dimes.
I'm not gonna hill I'm gonna die on. I didn't. Okay, I didn't attempt that to be shade.
If I'm Cade McNamara's dad or brother, I'd be mad at you. Like, really?
Look,
you're doing that? Stetson?
You can put Cade over him. You can put. The point is, I guess the way I'm looking at it is that in terms of Georgia versus Michigan, in terms of how they match up, I guess I wouldn't put like a huge advantage one over the other. That's what I'm trying to say. Not a huge advantage, right? Okay. Maybe Cade probably is a better decision maker than Stetson Bennett for sure. But then I think Stetson may be a little bit more athletic, if you want to say. So they not a huge advantage, right?
The shade, all right. The shade is
you're not like it. I'm not doing. You setting me up.
I'm not. You're jumping in. You're telling me Stetson's more athletic than Cade is?
Not by a ton, dude. I'm just saying with guys. I'm saying for guys who I think are comparable. One guy may do better than the other. Whatever. I think if you put Cade in Georgia, you're gonna have some similar results. Cade is good. I think Stetson is good. You put Stetson on Michigan, I think he does pretty well. I think he's a good, solid quarterback. Whatever. He ain't no one's Bryce Young. Okay, Bryce Young is clearly the best quarterback in this playoff. Right? So that fine. I think it's a good matchup. I really do. Now, I believe that what bothers me and scares me is that I think Georgia has some huge receivers, much bigger than our corners. So I think they can have the physicality matchup on the outside. Will be a tough thing to deal with. They also got some huge tight ends as well, some athletic tight ends. Their offense to me reminds me a lot of Michigan's offense too. A lot of play action passing, a lot of using tight ends over the middle, like the way they use their tight ends is very similar to how we use All and Shoemaker.
That Bowers kid, number 19, he is a monster. Alabama couldn't cover him. They could not cover him.
Yeah, I mean they got some dogs. Man. They got some dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got to think too. Number
really
one, George Pickens is going to be 4 weeks further in his rehab and getting back on stronger as far as his knee and stuff like that. I mean, even today, he was limited snaps and still had I think 30-something yard jump ball that they just threw up to him and he went up and caught it. And I'm pretty sure last week is the first week he got back on the field, like since tearing his ACL in the spring. As far as game action, but I think Michigan does match up pretty well with Georgia. I think Cade's going to have to do a little bit more. Like 24, I don't think 24 pass attempts is going to get it done against Georgia. I think you'll need to, Cade will need to have more on his plate just because for Georgia, I don't foresee, having the run success that Michigan typically does. Like, I think it'll still be good, but they've got some monsters up front. That Jordan Davis kid, now granted, he's not, if you're running tempo and stuff like that, he gets easily gassed. But
dude, there was one play, the play that Bryce pointed my man's open. Literally, Davis just standing up.
He just stood up. He was like,
he wasn't even pushing, bro. He was just like, set, go.
And the tackle was the tackle just
they weren't even shuffling,
and then that was it. Yeah, they weren't even moving. They weren't moving. They were like,
I feel like my man was like, I feel like Dave was just leaning on him mostly, just like, bro, I'm gonna get my breath here. No, but yes, but no, I agree with you. They are monsters, and you saw what Iowa did today. I actually thought overall, besides the Blake Corum run, Iowa did a decent job, with limiting Hassan Haskins. From having the normal average yardage that he normally has on those runs. I got to check the stats again to see what they were, but just based on watching the game, we definitely didn't dominate the line of scrimmage with our offensive line like we did against Ohio State. And I definitely think Iowa sold out on the run a little bit more than Ohio State did the week before. Now, will be interesting because Georgia is so good up front. Will Georgia sell out a little bit more, or will they just kind of bank on the front seven and line and kind of go, all right, guys, head on, you guys are head up, go eat, right? And then that'll be interesting to see, where arguably, the best offensive line in the country in Michigan, maybe, the way they've been playing lately versus probably the best defensive line in Georgia. It's going to be a great matchup. I'm not saying one or the other is number one, but I'm saying they have played as the best of whatever they are at some point in the season. So it should be an interesting matchup. Vice versa, I really do like our defensive line versus Georgia's offensive line. Like I really do. Our athletes on the outside, Ojabo and Hutchinson is going to be beasts for them. Cannot have stupid mistakes like we had today, by
Upshaw, of course.
Upshaw, Taylor Upshaw. I mean, my God, man, like,
No
dude,
relation.
those are the type
No
of
relation.
situations where you're playing against a better offense that you give up a touchdown when you should have been off the field, right? And you potentially change the outcome of a game. You got to keep your emotions in check always. And like he hasn't, and hopefully he'll probably learn from this and go forward. But we can't do those type of mistakes versus Georgia. Like if we get them out off the field on fourth down, we have to get the ball, right? You can't. So, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think that's going to be one of those physical games. Absolutely, I think it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Now,
interesting.
Now, Cincy versus Alabama. Go ahead. It'll be interesting seeing Cincy versus Bama.
Yeah, I'm not sure Cincy matches up well with Alabama just because we've seen Cincinnati struggle mightily with a lot of not great opponents. But what I was going to say is the interesting part is so Bama, their big pass rushers, Will Anderson, number 31, who's had a really good season, but overall, he was not able to get to Stetson Bennett much at all. Like they had to bring extra guys to get there. Obviously, Michigan's got two guys essentially that are playing at a really high level, soon to be NFL draft picks. So that part will be interesting. But Georgia's O-line did do a really good job of protecting Bennett today. Sure. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how that goes with Hutchinson and Ojabo. And I'll take a look to see how many, because I know that the guys had a lot of pressure on Iowa's two quarterbacks, but and I know Aiden got a sack early in the first half, but I'll take a look and see what everything looked like.
No, I see a comment Antoine made about Cincinnati. It seems like he's not high on Cincinnati. His thing about putting Notre Dame over Cincinnati is that this goes back to one of those years. Was two factors. One, I think, is just totally both are kind of out of the players' hands. I think it will factor in that, their head coach situation, even though Marcus Freeman is a very, very well respected, defensive coordinator around the country, and he's now been offered a head coaching job. So, but I think that may play a factor. Unfortunately, shouldn't, but it probably will. But more importantly than that, this is the problem with Notre Dame and why they will continue to get hurt by not playing in a championship game. Cincinnati won their conference, right? Right. So now are we going to, punish Cincinnati? Well, they've done nothing wrong. They've won all their games. They've won their conference while Notre Dame hasn't played in the conference. And this is the issue that we run into every year with Notre Dame, right? The conference, because once again, if you put Notre Dame over Cincinnati, then what you're saying is that it goes back to the conversation. So conference championships don't matter. You know what I'm saying? You forcibly put that back on a table, and so that's why I just can't see. And
you're also saying Group of Five will never ever get in.
And especially like a year like this year when Cincinnati did nothing wrong. They did everything you possibly can do. Everything you possibly can do. So I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and I think too the big thing too is right. Say Alabama was didn't play this week, like the perception of Alabama, you know what I mean, after the Auburn game versus today is very different. Same with Michigan. Like even with the big win that Michigan had last week over Ohio State, like the perception was really, really good of Michigan at that point. But even now, it's even better. You know what I mean? Like, so you just miss out on that opportunity to impress the committee, impress the vote, the every college football world, to really show like that improvement and how you've, been better. Like, what if Notre Dame played today and lost? You know what I mean? Like that's something that truly can happen because it's football. Like that happens,
Because you think about it, in your
Georgia
conference
was
title game, you're playing, you're pretty much most of the time guaranteed to play against a quality opponent. It's not supposed to be easy, and so if you are able to make it look easy, that's generally saying something, right? So like today, like Bama would not have nearly of a compelling argument to me if they barely squeak by Georgia. Say if they beat Georgia by a field goal or something like that. Okay, maybe Bama's not making that leap from 3-1, probably 3-2. But because they won by 17 points versus the consensus number one overall team this year, it's a lot more impressive. You know what I'm saying? Like that matters. Same deal with Michigan. Like it all like that. That's why conference title games like they matter. And Notre Dame refuses to do it, but whatever. Yes, let's toast media. Grab this one about Doc prayers for the Oxford. Absolutely. I forgot. I could have started with that. Des and I, we live here in Michigan. I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. Definitely thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the Oxford High School shooting. People check on your people at all times. You never know what they're going through. Not just leave it there. Look after each other. Talk to your children. Talk to people you know. Think if there are flags around you or signs, always speak up. Always speak up and look after each other. It's the best thing I can say that we can hopefully learn. And but yes, definitely thoughts and prayers for them.
Yep, for sure. And I ditto to everything, and prayers for those impacted directly or indirectly. It's a terrible thing. So we had and Dre, to kind of to echo what you said, definitely wanted to I was thinking about that actually working out at the gym today. It was like, oh man, I want to make sure that we at least take some time to just reflect a little bit. Like I said, we're both local. We live here in Michigan, so we thoughts and prayers to all of those that are that are impacted there. So Antoine's got a question. So he says, you made a good point with Cincinnati did win their week championship game. But he said, look at their schedule. Who did they play besides Notre Dame? And he's got a point. I mean, Indiana was the other Power 5 team that they played. They won that game, but Indiana has not had the type of season they wanted. And really, it's just Houston. I mean, SMU, we thought would be ranked by the time they played a couple weeks ago. They were not ranked. And really, it's just Houston. They beat Houston by 15 today. That's it. Like that,
Yeah.
But go ahead.
It's a tough call, and Antoine. It's a tough call. I mean, like I definitely believe that the schedule argument against Cincinnati is valid. It just to me always goes back to if you value conference championships, even though if you may call it a weak conference or not. I understand. I mean, this is probably a bad example, but like I say, a team like Clemson, they win ACC. They've won the ACC almost every year. That conference is weak. I guess, and I know it's probably not a great example because you see how the success, they will back that up because they will have success in the playoffs. Absolutely. Yep. But in general, like their schedule wouldn't be the strongest either if you really would look at it. Right. So even though the ACC is a better historic conference than what the AAC, what Cincinnati is in, still, like I value conference championships. I really do. Unless it's an extremely special situation like a Georgia, right? Well, they at least play in a conference championship, but I don't know. Like it has to be like one of those situations where like if your team has one loss and you have multiple top 25 wins and that one loss was to a team that was number one in the country or something like that. Like it has to be a real extreme situation for me to and I just think that it's just Cincinnati has done nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong, and it's unfortunate because, and I think we all are perceiving Cincinnati to be a mismatch versus whoever they play in the playoff, whether it's Michigan, Bama, or Georgia. But they deserve to be here. They just do. And
I mean, there's times
Notre Dame,
where Notre Dame I didn't think belonged in the playoff, and they still they still got in at the 4 seed, and they get throttled seemingly every year they get there. Like it just doesn't seem to matter. So that I thought that with Cincinnati, because as soon as the first rankings, even not the college football rankings, but like first like AP and stuff like that came out. As soon as I saw Cincinnati, I think they started at number 7, like in the first week of the season. I'm like, oh yeah, they're getting in. Like they're as long as they went out, But I'm like, if they went out, they're getting in. And then when they beat Notre Dame, we've talked about it since then. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Notre Dame's getting in, or I'm sorry, Cincinnati's getting in, just because number one, you beat Notre Dame, and that was the week after you beat Indiana. So at that point, I'm like, okay. Like it was the perfect G5 storm, because you almost have to balance it out, right? Because you can't just have the 1 year like what Houston had, the year that they either beat Oklahoma or almost did with Greg Ward Jr. at quarterback, but because they only had the one flash year, like they just had that year. The year before they weren't very good. Well, Cincinnati was good last year, and then rolled it over into this year. So then preseason, they were ranked high, and they had the 2 Power 5 teams on their schedule. Like it, you know what I mean? Like it worked out well. I mean, for Notre Dame, that was literally their only loss was to Cincinnati. Like that. I mean, doesn't get any better than that. Like they had the perfect storm as far as the G5 goes. And, the thing is too, like, I mean, Cincinnati's in, but you've got so many of the conferences have multiple losses, like, Baylor winning the Big 12.
One of those weird years.
They're a 2-loss champ. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's so many things. The ACC's down this year. So there's so many things worked in their favor that you've got 3 conferences that aren't even in it. Like 3 conferences are out of the college football playoff, Pac-12, ACC, and what am I missing? Big 12. Like those 3 conferences are out. Like that's such a rare thing to happen. Like they literally had a perfect storm, because look at last year. So last year you got what? Alabama was in, Notre Dame was a 1-loss team, but Notre Dame played in the ACC championship because of their, you know what I mean?
COVID 2020. Yeah.
Right. Clemson ends up, they end up going back and forth. So you got 2 teams from the ACC. You've got and who did Clemson play in the first round? Ohio State. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if this were last year, Cincinnati's not getting in. They're being left at home. So they literally had this is a perfect year, and that's why I think Cincinnati should get in, because part of me is just kind of like
they may never get this opportunity. Like it's just rare that they're getting an opportunity like this.
And you have those people who just keep on like, oh, we need to let G5 in, let them in. I'm like, okay, let them in. Like this is a perfect time. Let them in. Let them get their butts kicked. So then the next couple years we don't need to hear about this. Like that, you know what I mean? Like this is a different level. Like Cincinnati doesn't want to play any of the teams that are in the top 4. So they had a perfect storm. Yeah. They took advantage of it, and they're off and running.
Yeah, and back in terms of Michigan, you just play who you can't control nothing. Like I love the 3 guys' responses. Aiden K's response and Hassan Haskell's response. Jenny Taft asked them, "You guys in the playoff? Where do you guys want to seed?" And Aiden was like, "I don't care. Like it don't matter. We'll be ready to go." And that's just a perfect response, because it shouldn't matter. No matter if you're playing Georgia, Bama, Cincy, you take care of who's in front of you, and you deserve to be here, and you should feel like you're on the equal ground. I still say, even with the way Bama played today, the way Georgia played today, the way Cincy has played this whole season, Michigan has a legit chance to win this whole thing, to win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it is absolutely possible. Because
I think everybody outside of Cincinnati has a legit chance to win it.
And what if
Every,
Cincinnati won it? Just because you said that. Oh my goodness, that would change. Oh God,
oh no!
Lou Fickle will get a statue built at Cincinnati.
Don't
He
say
probably get a
that.
statue built anyway.
Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same. That's what they would need. They would need lightning to strike twice in the same exact spot.
Yes. And they'll
No.
need like half the teams like to get sick with a flu or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yes. But no. Anyway. Because with Michigan, and it's been evident every game they play, especially down the stretch, they bring elements to the table that are legitimate advantages no matter who they're playing every week. And it's just not a lot of teams in the country that can do that. Anytime you bring, we sound like a broken record, anytime you bring two legit first round picks on your defensive line, pass rushers, you are a legitimate threat at all times, especially on defense. And offensively, when you don't typically beat yourselves when it comes to penalties and turnovers, and you have a solid running game and a solid decision maker at quarterback, you also give you a legit chance to win, right? So it's just it's that Michigan, it's just, and especially now, look, he's taking a lot of heat, but Josh Gaddis' play calling at times has really gotten better, especially in terms of knowing when to use certain type of plays to trick the defense or misdirect the defense at times. So that's also a factor as well. And then also, you're seeing a lot more athleticism now that you've seen from Michigan the first part years of Harbaugh. I think you are really starting to show, right? You're seeing Sanders Steele and AJ Henning and Corum and these guys now, just like JJ McCarthy, they're being used in these athletic ways that we've never used our athletes in the past. And those chunk and explosive plays are happening now. And you're going to need that. I text you, like, you're going to need that play like we used with Donovan today for Iowa. We're going to need that versus Georgia, something of that nature, because they're so strong up front. That's going to be tough to just hammer them all day. We're going to have to use some misdirection to try to break them, loosen them up a little bit. So, but the good thing is that we have shown that we can do it, right? And so that's why I think Michigan has a legitimate chance. Do I believe they will? I don't know. But I'm definitely not going into any game feeling like we have no chance. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We have a legit chance.
Right. And that's exactly how you should feel. Sparta, thank you so much for the super chat. Says congrats to Michigan. I've seen the suffering you have all gone through since 2004. Happy to see you guys enjoy watching your team finally win again. That's
hats off to you, Sparta. Hats off to you. It's obvious that you are an MSU fan with the state logo and Sparta. Hats off to you for being a big person. And I appreciate that. Thank you. A long time coming. And you guys, I will say this: you guys also had a good season as well. Go 10-2, and you're going to be in a New Year's Six bowl, where that is, Fiesta Bowl. Probably not the Rose Bowl. Maybe the Rose Bowl. Actually, I think they may even be the Rose Bowl. So Sparty's going to have has had a good season too. So appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So D Brown says, focusing on beating Ohio elevated our program. If we stay focused on that year in and year out, we have a great chance to compete for championships. I think there's a lot of merit to that. I think there's a lot of merit 100%. To that. Just having that 100%. Focus, that drive.
Mentality. It's the mentality, right? I think what Michigan did, what you saw for the first time in a long time, I think, with this team, was the embrace of the underdog as something to prove in this rivalry versus Ohio State. And, and this team all year, they played with an edge. They played focused. They played with confidence and just a mental toughness that was just never broken. And if you can bring that every year, look, your talent's going to fluctuate, right? Experience, right? You're going to go through that. Yeah, as your program has, attrition of seniors and youth and all that, right? So it's a process, right, throughout the season. But if you can keep the right intangibles in terms of your mental toughness, the right culture, and the right juice in the program that you're bringing week to week, you really give yourself a chance to win those championships, like D Brown is saying, because as you're going along that path to get here, you're just putting yourself in best position to do it, right? Because, and say you're younger at the beginning of the season. Well, if you have the right culture, by the time you get towards the end of the season, you're ready to win those championships, right? And if you're in position, you'll capitalize. So I 100% agree with you, D Brown. Like this potentially could be a foundational year to have more years like that in the future. Are we going to have years like this every year? No, that's just unrealistic. Ohio State is too good. I think MSU is going to be a problem. We'll see what Mel Tucker does. And then also Penn State. James Franklin. He is who he is, but they're always respectable. So, yeah.
Dudley Dawson says, I'm betting on Michigan because at the end of the day, I like our leadership. But I mean, look at UGA. They had no leadership today. That's been, we kind of started off our stream today talking about that, like of how every single week it's been Michigan has been like it may not be, they may not throw the ball as much as we want them to or whatever. And honestly, at this point, that doesn't matter anymore. But the things you can bank on is their energy and focus being there from the beginning, from the kickoff, the leaders having those guys ready to go. And I say leaders, and I mean, the players and coaches. And it's been a consistent theme. Like they've done that every single game. There has not been a game, even the Michigan State game where, that Michigan lost that game. It wasn't because they came out flat or unfocused or anything like that. It was just, mistakes within the game. So it's been a consistent theme that these guys have been focused from the jump and Aiden and Haskins and even Cade, those guys have done a terrific job of, week in and week out being focused. And it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, what today was game 13 on the schedule, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot. You got 13 weeks plus you got a bye week in there too. It gets, you get to points where you're just like, man, this is kind of, it's dog days,
It's uncharted territory, but you being, the Bama fan, being here many times could let me know. I do worry about not worry, wonder. Hopefully I said wonder. That's what I meant to say. Especially the way Michigan's been playing like so good lately, if this long layoff between now and the playoff, like what is it, about 3 weeks or something like that?
About 3-4 weeks, yeah.
And obviously it's good for 3 or 4 weeks. For one, I'm actually kind of curious, is there any chance Ronnie Bell can come back? Probably not. Torn ACL, probably not. I feel like maybe you would have heard whispers about that if it was true.
Yeah, I mean, that was September you're talking about that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's just a long season.
Because think about it. George Pickens tore his in the spring, and he's just now getting back. You know what I mean? He got back on the field last week. So you need at least
good point.
Even Adrian Peterson crazy is like 6 months,
Yeah, you're right. But anyway, the point, I'm kind of wondering about, especially the way Michigan's been playing so well lately, will this layoff help them? Obviously, from a health standpoint, you get to kind of, rest your legs a little bit. That's going to help. But just in terms of rhythm, I wonder how this affects rhythm. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know.
Well, I think number one, health is big. Like it looks like Corum is back, but nonetheless, another 3-4 weeks, to heal up to really make sure he's 100%.
Yeah,
is only going to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I think the positive is Michigan's play style. Like they're not a team that is an air raid throwing the ball 50 times a game. So you know what I mean. It's much easier to keep a run rhythm, or keep a rhythm when you're a run-based offense versus when you're pass-based, because that's a lot of, practice speed versus game speed is very different, as far as timing and things like that. So I think Michigan will be fine. And I think one big benefit is your defensive coordinator has an NFL background. Him getting 3 to 4 weeks to really do a deep dive into whoever your opponent is, whether it's Georgia, Cincinnati, whatever. I think that's going to be probably an underrated thing and something that maybe not be talked about a lot, but I think that could be huge, because if you can hold a team, whoever it is that you play, to, 14, 20 points, I mean, you are talking about a legitimate chance to be in the national championship. So, I think that's something that probably not a lot of people will talk about, but I think could be huge when you're talking about, trying to get to that next, that next step. So
For
it'll
sure.
be, it'll be interesting. And if you get Georgia, it's going to be you wonder how Georgia's going to come out, right? Is it going to be that team that's just like, are they going to be super motivated because the last time they were on the field, they lost? Or is it going to be a team that's just not quite, on their A game, just with having a lot of
That's
time
a
off,
scary thought. It's a
you
scary
know?
thought. I didn't even think about that. I mean, I'm sure they're really ticked off about today, and I'm sure they're
Yeah,
going to want their, because rightfully so, they feel like this is their year. This, and they're going to be ticked off, I'm sure, and wanting to get back at Bama. I believe so. But look, like it's just, I just don't. I don't think that. I just think that this Michigan team is just they're going to be a tough out. They're going to be tough out,
for
and
sure.
I feel. I'll put it this way. I feel much better going against Georgia than Bama right now, only because even though I believe that, Georgia's played better football overall until today, but more than Bama has, Bryce Young is just fantastic, man. And he's just, and that's you guys' speed, man. And I was joking about it serious. Like, you guys recruit Olympic sprinters. Like, the speed that play, and it was busted coverage, but to see what's his name, Julius
Jameson,
Williams. Jameson
Jameson
Williams,
Williams,
dude,
yeah.
like to see him catch the ball and like the like the speed you guys have is just like, oh my God. Like it's just, it's just one of those things where you guys are so special because you're so athletic that you can't have busted coverage versus
Mm-mm.
Alabama. Like, that turns into touchdowns.
Right.
Sometimes a lot of teams, yeah, busted coverage. It may be a touchdown, but more times than not, maybe it's just a chunk play. Right. With Alabama, like it can like you can literally be. I've seen you guys, especially earlier this year versus Miami, be on your own like 2 yard line and busted coverage literally turn into a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
like that. Like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just that fast. So it's
And
different.
Georgia
It's
busted a
different.
lot of coverages today. A lot.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
was interesting. But yeah, it's you you just never know, man. That's the cool thing about Michigan being in the playoff is you literally never know. Like, John Mechie got hurt today. He's one of Bama's main receivers. He's injured. Like, injuries happen. That's part of
That's big.
it's part of football.
That's
So,
big.
who's to say you don't go to Georgia and their starting running back gets hurt, or they're whatever, just a key linebacker.
Hmm.
Like, you just don't know. Like, and that's just part of football, and that's
Yeah,
that's things
absolutely.
that teams have to navigate. You guys are pretty healthy. I mean, like I said, Blake is he seems to be back. I mean, that run today did not
Yeah.
look like he was dealing with a high ankle sprain at all. So it just you look at it and you think like, man, you're there, you're in the Final Four, you're healthy, you're playing your best football of the season, like literally of the season. And, and at this point, anything can happen. You got 4 weeks to game plan. You've got
Absolutely.
like I said, a defensive coordinator with an NFL background. Like, I would feel very confident with that, and I think more time for Gaddis to put some
And you have a
plays
team of
together.
great leadership.
Mm-hmm. There's just so many
Yep.
positives for Michigan,
And you
and
have a
you're
team of
and
great leadership.
you're just playing well. Like, at the end of the day, you're just playing well, and that's where exactly where you want to be.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And I think people understand what we're saying. And I'm gonna repeat it just in case people didn't hear us. I've said Michigan has a legit chance versus all these teams. I'm just talking about what will concern me versus either one of them. Not really Cincinnati, but Bama and Georgia. I'm just saying, like, and like I saw Marcus, put how many people on our roster have Alabama speed, quote unquote, and it's like, well, I never said that we didn't have fast guys. I was just saying that Alabama has some really fast, like they have up, like it's just they had a lot of guys that when they touch that ball, man, if you make a mistake, they're gone. Like we have some game breakers too, but I'm just saying, like, it could be sometimes be another level with Bama. You just gotta give them credit for that, and we It just is what it is. So, but we definitely have a chance versus anybody. But hey, this is the fun part, guys. We are champions today, and we are champions forever. You can't take this season away from us, and that's the most important thing. 2021 Big Ten champs, the University of Michigan.
So
unbelievable.
When Michigan, wrapped up against Western Michigan, was this what you were thinking? Like, oh yeah, we'll be in the Final Four. Was that going through your head?
No, man. No, of course not. I mean, like, look, we go back to preseason predictions. Like I think I had them 6-6, 7-5. I had us losing to Washington. Like this whole season has been proving ground. And because I thought it was so many question marks, and I just wasn't for sure. And that's the beauty of a season like this. You learn more about the team as you go through it, and you see guys who you thought were good get better, and then you see guys who you didn't know were as good as they were come out of nowhere. Ajabo, seeing Andrew Anthony, have a pop here and there, seeing Eric Gall come into himself, seeing Asana Haskins carry over what he did last year to this year and get better, see Blake Corum pop, see Donovan Edwards, a true freshman, pop, right? Seeing JJ McCarthy as a true freshman quarterback, sure that he can contribute. Josh Ross, solidifying himself. Aiden, we knew Aiden was really good, but Aiden got better this year. He was good last year, but he had a good season last year, and he had a great season this year, right? I thought DJ Turner did a really good job at corner. I thought Gray was very solid at corner. Daxton Hill, solid at safety. We knew he'll be good, and he delivered, right? It's just in the offensive line, started with Andrew Vastardis. They played well, and they got better throughout the year. So, no, of course, I didn't see that week one. We beat Western Michigan, but they got better week to week, man, and that's fun. That's fun to see. And I don't have enough good things to say. But I can't believe we're here. And yeah, man, it's a long time coming, man. We've been friends for a minute now. And
very true.
Oh, we not listening to people like Ryan and Softest Big Ten.
I was just gonna say, what are your thoughts on this? I think this is just crazy. To say softest Big Ten.
That's just someone trying to start things up. It's like, dude, we can go through many years. Yeah, we can go through year, and we can talk about, schedule here, teams up and down. How's the Big Ten soft? Ohio State had a good year this year. MSU had a good year this year. Three of the teams, there are three teams that Big Ten needs to have at least 10 wins. Mm-hmm. How's that week?
Ohio State is 7 right now. Michigan State 11. Iowa obviously 13.
He's saying it like I could see if like MSU sucked, Ohio State sucked, and it was just Michigan in the East, and it was like a freaking 8-4 Northwestern team that we played in the Big Ten title. I'll cop to that. What are you talking about? We got to the last 2 weeks of the season, and we literally had three teams that could have been in the playoff. We had what would we have, Dez? We had Ohio State number 3, who was Michigan 5, and MSU was 6 or something like that.
Yep.
We were in a few conferences. There was no other conference that had that situation. So what are you talking about? If anything, this is one of the tightest races has been in a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
so
think about it. I mean, Michigan Ohio State game came down to.
If you don't talk trash, have it make a little bit of sense. that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, the game came down to a playoff berth. Like whoever wins this is going to Indianapolis.
You guys still see this? Like he's buffering. So do you guys? But while we're waiting for Dez to fix to come back here, do you guys agree with me?
I think they probably do. So I think Dre might have been buffering, but to me, I just what I look at with the Ohio State Michigan game came down to the winner of that game is going to Indianapolis for a shot at the college football playoff. Like I think that this was a strong year for the Big Ten. Like I don't think the Big Ten was down at all. If anything, I would look at the ACC or the Pac-12 and say those teams or those conferences were without a doubt down, but definitely not for the Big Ten. This was a really strong year for the Big Ten. So we shall see.
They were all so teams that made the Big Ten look good. What are you talking about? So you're down in your own team because your team won 10 games. So hopefully you're persistent with that too.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, Dre, and here's what I just want to say again. Michigan Wolverines are the Big Ten champions.
You're damn right.
Undisputed Big
baby.
Ten champions.
No cold Big Ten East champions. No, we are Big Ten champions.
You guys are getting fitted for your rings, and you might get 2 of them because sometimes they'll do it for the division and for the actual conference. But whatever you want to do, it's incredible, man. It truly is. Like to see where this team was last year, 2-4, just not a good season, not a good showing. Your starting quarterback who started the year is down at Tennessee right now in Knoxville. So for Jim Harbaugh to take that, that season, that result, and to get the leaders to believe, because that's a big thing too, is to get those guys to believe, because a lot of times it's you need your best players to believe and really drive the other guys, and for them to do that. I just think it's incredible, and I can't give Jim Harbaugh enough credit, enough kudos, because I was the same guy that was crushing him last year. So he deserves all the credit that he's going to get these next couple weeks. And for Michigan fans, enjoy it, because you guys are going to be all over ESPN and CBS and any other station, and I'm sure
too,
on Monday you're going to get a lot of.
But we're used to y'all. We got Bama fatigue, but you're here. But I'm just. What is Rushman talking about? Iowa's a 500 team. They won 10 games. What is 5? Last time I checked, 500 would be what would that be? 6-6 going to this game.
Yep.
I don't.
500 would be literally winning and losing the same amount of games.
So look, I know like people are trolling and being like silly, but and I understand people like Ryan. Like, dude, here's what I understand about a State fan or Ohio State fan. If they were to troll, it's like, okay, if you're a State fan, you guys had your run, and you had a really good run a couple of years ago in terms of winning Big Ten titles, right? With Mark Antonio, you had a nice bounce back year this year. What's the reason trolling? That's like insecurity. Like, you guys are in a good place. You've got some championships. Just shut up and let people have their moments. Same thing with Ohio State fans that are trolling. Like as a Michigan fan, I'm not bantering versus anybody else, because this is what we finally broke through. But so I just don't see the point of being that way. But whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah, and I mean, you can argue like, okay, Iowa is not the second best team in the Big Ten. Like, I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue for that. But at the end of the day, they played who was on their schedule. They lost 2 games, and they were in the Big Ten championship. They
didn't play Michigan State. So all of a sudden, Michigan State is the hero or be all that they didn't play Michigan. Oh, okay, they didn't play Michigan. They didn't play Michigan State. That's an argument against anybody in the Big Ten West. That's an argument against Wisconsin. It's an argument against Iowa.
That's the side of the conference, right?
Yeah. So but what does that have to ultimately do with anything? And calling Iowa a 500 team? They're not a 500 team. They got 10 wins. It didn't. Last time I checked, they actually beat Penn State, who was a solid team. One point that was ranked in the higher in the country this year, right? So it's like, what are we doing? But anyway, whatever.
This is a good.
It's
question.
Late. You ready?
So Mostly Noble said, "What do you guys think about team realignment within the conference?" That's actually a good question. I don't know how you divvy it up. You know what I mean? Do you put, because the tough part is right now, and really historically, you've got, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State all in the same division. And on the flip side, it's basically been Wisconsin and Iowa, and really for even that side of the conference, it hasn't been super strong since, they kind of went with the realignment. I just don't know how you move it. You know what I mean? Like, unless my thought would be either Penn State or Michigan State moving over to the to the West. But it's just tough because essentially you're going to have Michigan State is going to be a guaranteed crossover,
but it's unbalanced either way. Right, it's unbalanced either way because here's how I look at it. There are 6 legitimate teams in the Big Ten overall every year that have a chance to at least win 9 games because of the way they recruit, their culture, their history. Right? Okay, that's Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those are like the legitimate, like you can't just sleep on them, right? They can do well. So here's the problem: with 4 of those teams on one side, 2 on the other. So if you take 2 from one side, you put them on the other side, and now you just you're creating a
well, I was thinking take one
balance huh?
I was thinking take one, either Penn State or Michigan State. But then but here's the tough part. So let's say you do Michigan State. Like for Michigan and Michigan State, that's going to be your guaranteed crossover there. So you know what I mean? Like, because you're gonna want to protect that rivalry of Michigan State. So that's your one crossover. Your other's going to be Wisconsin every year. So Michigan's never going to play any other team in the, you know what I mean, in the other side of the conference due to that. So I just don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it would work, I guess.
Frankly, I really don't care at the moment because with the way things are aligned, we won and
you went through the toughest side of it and won.
Yeah, man. Like it's just like whatever, dude. Like, look, if you don't sit and spin, if you don't like it,
I think the interesting part is like for what and I don't know who it was that was a Rushman. Like, imagine if Iowa wins today and wins the Big Ten, just for, whatever. I'm not going to the playoff or anything like that, but to be able to avoid, you know what I mean, like not playing the toughest teams in the conference and still to be able to say we're the conference champs. Like that's the part that is tough. Like with having that is just to not be able to, you get the easier route essentially, and you still get to represent the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, it's just look, it's the fact of the matter is, no matter what side you're on, just handle your business, right? And more times than not, things balance each other out. Just like we got to the end of the season, and people are like, well, what's going to happen? We got 3 teams right in the playoff chase with Ohio State, MSU, and Michigan. What's going to happen? And we all say it's going to work itself out. It's going to balance itself out, right? Because these teams have to play each other. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, I don't know. Here's my point, Rich man. Why is this a hill you want to die on? I mean, why is it your goal to diminish what Michigan did? I don't understand. And why are you diminishing Iowa? Like I can like truly. I mean, like it's hard to win and to get to 10 wins in your season. I mean, it's I just to say like, oh my God, they're trash. Okay, they may not be a really good team, but they're not trash. They're at the very least solid, and you just leave it there. Call a team solid and move on. They may not be really good. They're definitely not trash. But I just don't understand the whole, oh, they suck, man. It's like, I don't know. Whatever.
It's just a crazy season when you look at it overall. And, I've said it before on the channel plenty of times. I'll say it again, is that when opportunities open, like you've got to take advantage. And Michigan has an opportunity right now, because even with the way that the Alabama-Georgia game went, I don't think anybody would look at any of the teams in the top 4 and say that anybody is unbeatable or can't be beat, or there's an undefeated Clemson where it's just like, yeah, they're definitely going to win it, or an Alabama from last year, 2019 LSU. Like those teams they don't exist this year. Like it's a toss up. Like anybody can win it, and I, for myself personally, will remove Cincinnati because I don't think they can win it. But outside of that, it's just it's a toss up, man. And the thing is for Jim Harbaugh to have the ability, like if he wins it this year, like man, that's just huge, monumental. You know what I mean? So you got to take advantage, man. You got to run through that door. It's open, and go and get it. So,
for sure, man.
Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Very late. Anything
Yes,
else you wanted to
yes.
jump into?
No, man, we got time, man. In the next couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what we're going to do with our Wednesday show. I assume we're still going to be doing it every week. We'll see. But we got plenty of time, to relish in this moment and talk about matchups. And there's gonna be a lot. I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk Wednesday because we got to see what happens Sunday. See how this season shakes out. Then we're gonna actually really get into the matchups and talk about how these teams, look on the field. But other than that, man, what's done is done.
Big Ten champs.
Big Ten champs, man. It's a great feeling.
It is. Congrats again to Michigan.
Thank you to everyone sticking. And also, thank you to everyone. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your commitment to this channel. Please help continue to help us grow. It's been fun doing this. And I know Dez, you enjoyed it as well. And we could have picked a better season to start doing this with you guys, right? It's been an incredible road, and we enjoy you guys' insight and dialogue with us.
For sure. And so with tomorrow, what did we got? 11 hours. In 11 hours, they're going to be announcing the seeding. So we know Michigan's in. We just don't know what number they're going to end up at. So we shall see. And yeah, we'll go from there. I don't know what you got planned, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll maybe check with Mark after I wake up and see if we might do a stream and see where they end up and go from there. But who knows? We'll see. Stay tuned, everybody. But that is it. Wolverines are Big Ten champions. Big win, 42-3 over Iowa, who was ranked, I believe, number 13. Jim Harbaugh got to Indianapolis, and he conquered, won. So, hey, man,
good
Michigan
job, Jimmy.
Wolverines are in the college football playoff.
I've never done it, but I will do it this time. How great to be a Michigan Wolverine. How great to be a Michigan Wolverine. I love it, baby. I love it. Go ahead.
And that is it for us. See y'all later. Y'all have a good night.
Go Blue.
See ya.